So, here we are. This is a new series now that the channel has about 50k. I think it's time to start paying a little bit more, community-esque attention and make sure that you guys feel involved in the process. So this is something new. I'm calling it Salvage Sundays. Thank you, girlfriend, for coming up with that name. As initially it was send me your garbage, but that was not necessarily very PG. So, yeah, thank you. So, this one has been sent in by user Honorblade in the comment section on the community tab on the YouTube page. If you want to get involved in this process, feel free to put a WeTransfer in the comments below with a description of what the Empire is and what you want me to do with it. Initially, he told me, look, I've just managed to vassalize two empires in my vicinity. I've moved my capital over to a Gaia planet. That's fair. However, I am surrounded by a bunch of empires that are relatively large and that hate me, which I can see. It's problematic, definitely. And yeah, there is a couple of other things going on here. So let's dive straight into this and see what the actual problems are that I encountered with this empire. I played it for about 50, 60 years. So let's take a look at what we have. Well, first of all, one of the major issues is that we will need to integrate a lot of these smaller vassals into our empire, and in addition, we have way too much food, as we also have a bit of a power problem due to being over our naval capacity. There's a couple of things we can do about this. We can remove food resources and basically replace those with power where necessary. There were also a couple of instances where there was not really an optimal position for the capital building on a planet, so you don't really make good use of the four-way bonus that you can get with the resources from that, so I had to move a couple of capitals around, etc. There were also a bunch of things in terms of trying to get robots into the thing. This particular empire had a couple of rather interesting little things going on with its empire, specifically its ethics: materialist, militarist, and xenophile. So the big problem with this is you're basically trying to catch a really wide net with your ethics, which in itself is not really a problem. It just means that later on you're going to be running into some serious problems when it comes to factions, etc. Thankfully, he was already patron of the arts at only one patronage building. I managed to upgrade that to 5 in the end by spending a pretty large amount of resources and trying to bring the economy back up to scale. The other big issue that I noticed with this empire is that it seems to be going for a bit of a flex approach. And by a flex approach, I mean going tall and then trying to widen out. The problem with this is not enough territory was caught early on in order to support that approach. So not enough minerals, not enough energy being captured in space, and we needed to do quite a lot of work on the planets themselves in order to make this a little bit more practical. In the meantime, though, there was also quite a lot of stuff going on in terms of trying to get around this issue of the alliance this empire was in. Now, the empire itself, the alliance that they were in, was egalitarian and materialistic. Now, I tried to go to war with other empires several times, trying to keep these, trying to pull this alliance into the empire, into any wars with me, but they really were not interested at pretty much at any point, which means that they became more of a shackle than a help. So at some point, we kind of said, you know what? Let's just leave this alliance. Let's try to get a bunch of defensive packs all over the shop and try to do it that way. That way we were a little bit more flexible. We got all of our fleet power back, etc. Then there was the traditions. The traditions themselves were set up pretty decently. Expansion, diplomacy were almost completely finished. And sadly, due to the fact that we are materialists, it means that we don't really have a good chance of getting psionic ascension, which is kind of what you want to do when you have an empire that's small. Robotics, it could be an option, but with the chance of having 2 fallen empires right below and above us, it could potentially cause some serious problems. In addition, I decided to finish up the Harmony tree to get Utopian Dream, to get paradise domes, just to get the happiness up. Got a lot of migration treaties going on, and integrating all these other species into our empire caused some unrest problems, and adding Utopian Dream does increase happiness, which kind of offsets this wide net that you're trying to throw with the ethics, because you got a lot of factions. Factions are not happy because they clash with each other, so you can kind of get around with that due to the Utopian Dream approach here. So at this point, we have managed to integrate all of our stuff into one large empire. We're now firmly playing a wide one. As you're also going to see, I have completely changed the layout of the sectors to be a little bit more flexible and cast a better net when it comes to their specific planets. So for instance, a lot of these planets were catered towards minerals, so we put all the mineral ones into one sector, put a mineral leader on there, and then with a mineral approach. I also learned that I completely hate the sector AI in this one, because it causes a lot of problems. Now at this point, you know, it's stable. We got a decent amount of mineral income. Influence income is good. We're starting to reverb all of our fleets. Some of the fallen empires are asking us for things. Hey, can you colonize this planet? And they then give us resources for it, etc. So there's a lot of good stuff going on with that. Then the big issue, and this is by far the larger problem that I encountered in this particular playthrough, is that considering the empires that are around us are so much bigger and they all hate our guts, we really need to wait for a moment of pure opportunity. Basically, you want to pick one of these empires and try to take a look at them, see which one of these is interesting, and then wait for somebody else to attack them. Then, if they manage to take down their main fleet, jump right on top of them, and at the same time also keeping an eye on the political environment to make sure that there's no collapsing defensive packs going on there. You will see this later on. Now, like I said, I fast forward everything here. This is going to take about 50 years, etc. And there's a lot of stuff going on. Now I'm building a fortress. At this point, I didn't actually quite realize that this is a all FTL game. Now, if you're watching this in Cherry, there used to be 3 types of FTL, and this game uses all 3 of them. I think I'm all hyperdrive in this, which is fine, but it just turned out that the other empire was using warp, which meant that they could go all over the place, and I thought that I could lock them down inside of a single FTL trap that was going into my territory. Also doing quite a lot of stuff with robots, considering population growth was relatively slow, and I wanted to get more bonuses on minerals. Building a lot of robots with bonuses to minerals helped quite a lot. Trying to get those research agreements going, also very important, especially considering we're a small empire that at its core has serious problems generating enough research to get through the tech tree. So all these research packs really helped. Colonizing a new planet there. Sectors really like colonizing if you do a lot of interesting stuff. Now, you just saw a screen where I actually had a request from a fallen empire, and I actually had to look at some stuff before I said yes or no, because I want to be on the gracious side of that fallen empire, but I don't want to lose something. And that thing was a very particular scientist, because I got incredibly lucky, and about halfway through the playthrough, one of my materialistic scientists managed to get psionic theory specialization. And this meant that I can get the psionic ascension. Now, with a smaller empire, psionic is incredibly good because you get some crazy bonuses on top. With that, on top of that, you can get some very crazy stuff going on with the various bonuses you can get from the Shroud. If you're playing really small, those bonuses stack up immensely quickly. So 25% bonus to firepower, 25% bonus to happiness, all that stuff is there. So now I have a psionic researcher, and just waiting to get psionic theory done, and then jumping straight into the psionic ascension perk. I think I'm about to do that right here. There we go. Mind over matter being popped off there. So quite a lot of flexibility with that. It's definitely one of the better ones to take if you're very small. So at this stage, I got 50,000 fleet power. I'm starting to kind of look around, see what kind of target I want to go for, and this big green empire on the top seems to be like a good target. So let's jump right on top of that. Our fleet is pretty strongly kitted out. They used to be, the enemy fleet used to be pretty strong, but they were in another war, so we opened up another front and started taking planets very quickly. So that was definitely something that was incredibly useful to have, and basically salvage this game from being stuck as a tiny empire in a corner. And from this moment, you can snowball onwards, like you can capturing all these planets very quickly and efficiently, trying to grab all these worlds. It's definitely something that is very useful to do. And there we go, 31% war score. Now at the end here, it turned out that their enemy capital fleet was actually stuck bombing a planet the entire game. They could not get any transport ships to actually capture that planet. And once I managed to destroy their transport fleet that was stuck somewhere, they finally managed to move forward. Now we're about to get into a bunch of capital fights here. That's their main capital fleet. We managed to annihilate that. A couple of them got away. But the war score is already ticking up very quickly here. And once we hit 70, we got enough war score points in order to take all of our objectives -1. Why -1? Yeah, I was kind of getting bored with this war, to be honest. There's a lot of stuff going on here that I was not particularly happy with. Wars themselves just take way too long for it to be interesting, let's put it that way. A lot of cool stuff going on here. Another fleet being captured, and poof, there we have it. We managed to get into a good position. So, it is the year 2337, about 50 years after the start of the game initially. The Slitz Empire is in a pretty good position. Obviously, I haven't sectored up my new conquests, but our neighbor, who we obviously went to war with, is severely crippled. This is going to make a nice little access point in the future. The big problem right now is, now that we have managed to break out of our little corner, it means we've lost a little bit of fleet power. The guys to our south may see us as a potential threat, and that's something we need to overcome. Like I said, we got mind over matter, which means that we, due to our amazing scientists that we managed to get through psionic specialization, very rare to have that happen, and I was incredibly happy with that. But as you can see, we're having a lot of problems getting our science going. We got a lot of costs, 29 planets, 478 pops. We have got a lot of relatively large planets floating around with a lot of pops, and this is just going to cause a lot of problems. So where do we go from here on out, really? Well, I'm going to put this save game in the description below, and feel free to have a little bit of a play around with. Like I said, I've effectively broken this empire out of its little corner in about 50 years' time. It took me about 4 hours to do this, so yeah, I did spend quite a lot of time on this one, but it was pretty fun. These guys are going to be crippled. They're going to be cut up between these 4 empires. That includes ourselves as well. And then these ones are going to be the next ones. The big other issue is we've got a bunch of very large empires in the south as well as in the west of the galaxy that could be causing long-term problems. I could see this game to be finished somewhere around 2450, so about 120 years from now. If you decide to play along with this, feel free to play along, see what we can get, and start setting up your sectors, get that debris going. Finalize some of your ship designs, because right now, the ship of the line, while it is decent, it's still missing a bunch of the key components. I am using a lot of carriers here as well, with long-range kinetic weapons, as well as artillery. I don't have any XL weapons here, so there's still a lot of stuff that can be done in the late game. In addition, there's still some stuff that can be done here, going for Transcendence, maybe for Master Builders to get Wonders of the Galaxies, etc. Anyway, this was the end of episode 1 of Salvage Sundays. If you like this concept, let me know, and play along with us with the Slitz Empire. Next week, we're going to be taking a look at something else, another empire that I've been given, and I've already been recording so far. But yeah, if you like this, give it a like. The more we get, the longer this series will be running, because if we don't get any, if I don't get any positive feedback on this, well, let's put it this way, these take a long time to do. So Yeah. The more positivity we get, the more you want to see of this, well, the more I will do of this. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves, and let's get learning, because I am learning with this particular playthrough.